Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. Such a pleasure to speak to you both. How are you doing?
Yeah, all good. Thanks. Good to chat to you. How
Nice
are
to
you?
chat to you. Yeah, very well, thanks. So third and final season of Alex Rider. New enemies, family secrets coming to light. Can you set the scene for us a bit? What can people expect going into this third season?
Absolutely. Well, season three picks up pretty soon after where season two ended. Alex has been tasked with finding Scorpia, the terrorist organization that we've heard so much about, that have been pulling the strings throughout season one and two. So Alex comes face to face with this threat, and the threat has never been bigger, and he might have to go out on his own to learn the truth about his history and about Scorpia, which is a really difficult thing for him to do.
Indeed. And Tom is there too, cracking wise the entire time. Yeah.
Brilliant. And of course, it was quite a gap between the end of the second season and going into this third. So how did you feel? And also, I guess, knowing it was going to be your final one, so a bit of a double-edged sword in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, it was a long time between series two finishing production and series three beginning production, and that gave us time to think about if we were going back, what would we do? What would we want out of the next one? And then just with COVID and the strikes and everything, it became an issue of we'd filmed it but couldn't release for a while, and there's just lots of logistical things that go into it. But in terms of rounding off the narrative of our time on Alex Rider and also the narrative of Alex Rider, we just want to do right by the fans, and we can't leave any questions unanswered. So yeah, this feels like a nice series of keeping the suspense going, but actually finally giving the reasons why things are the way they are in the Rider universe.
And of course, there's no shortage of kind of spy thrillers out there, even going back to the classic kind of Bond series. But what feels really refreshing about this show is it's from the point of view of, a young person, and it kind of puts a whole different spin on it. So what was the appeal when you guys first jumped on board? And what do you think it is that's really struck a chord with audiences in that sense?
I think this show is it's so universal in the message that it tries to give out, that, it's hard growing up, first of all, especially, if you're trying to save the world as well, and actually, follow your instinct and have that moral compass and trust it, and trust your friends, love your friends and your family, cherish them, because I think those are all universal things. So I really agree with the message of it, and then on top of that, it's just really fun.
Yeah.
Like, getting to climb up buildings or boats, or doing fight sequences, or laughing at his jokes, or trying to save the world.
Yeah.
It's just fun, and there's darkness along the way, but there's definitely a lot of lightness as well.
Yeah, I think it's also the appeal of, personally for me, I remember being 9 years old, being in my English class, reading Point Blank and writing a book report on it. So, just in terms of why I signed on for this job, it's for little Bren. Little Bren would have loved if there was a TV show being made of this back when I was reading the books. I would have watched like every episode back to back to back for months on end. So to know that something that I grew up and was one of the main reasons for me loving reading and loving storytelling, and I'm sure in some way eventually led to the career that we're doing now. It's a lovely little bow on the top of my love of narrative. So yeah, it's a privilege to be a part of.
And it's going to be my next question, actually, the fact, that it is obviously based on Anthony Horowitz novels, Point Blanc, and then Eagle Strike, and now Scorpia. Obviously, you were very familiar with it already. How closely does it follow those books? How much were you looking to the original text kind of to find your characters? Were you more relying on the script? What's that process like?
For me, I always read the book that we do the show on, very early on in that process, just to kind of see what strikes me about the character's development in that book, or what I really enjoy. But really, what I've loved in making the series is exploring the different facets of Alex that maybe we don't see in the book. Trying to bring something as fresh as possible to him. Obviously, we don't follow the narrative sort of exactly as it happens in the book, but the story is the same, and with a few extra characters here and there. So it's I use a little bit of that, but also, I've got Brenock O'Connor or Marley Sue or Ronke Adekoluojo with us.
We've got a great team.
We got such a great team: Vicky McClure, Stephen Delane, and Sophia Helen. So when you're in that world, when you're creating, you're there and you're listening to them because they bring it to life.
Yeah. For me, the books are, not to say less important in terms of understanding the character, it's just that the character is not actually in the books until book 5. So if we were doing it strictly by the book, Tom would have entered in this series and wouldn't have been in Point Blank or Eagle Strike at all. But also in the book, Tom is another athletic, short-haired, blonde boy. He's essentially Alex Part 2, and that's why they get on. That's why they cast me. I'm absolutely so ruddy athletic, but it became more of a leap pad from where I could start to paint my own ideas onto Tom. And I heard something recently that apparently Tom in the newest books does have long brown curly hair. And
Anthony has taken some inspiration.
Yeah, that sort of warms my heart a little bit, that I've changed a character that I loved as a kid, and there's a me in a book that I used to read. But it's a lot more freeform when it comes to Tom's dialogue, especially on Series 3. Being part of this process for as long as we've built up a rapport with the team that make it behind the scenes, and there's a lot of trust in terms of how much of the dialogue is free to play with on the day. As long as we're hitting the narrative beats, we're fine, but I can throw in some kooky lines if we fancy, and I think a lot of them have actually made it into the cut, so...
And in terms of, each of your characters, for you, Otto, where do you think that we've seen Alex kind of evolve to, and where we find him in this season? And I guess, that line sort of allies become enemies and enemies becoming allies, all that sort of complexity and, his sort of emotional struggles with taking on the role that he has, so where do we find him here?
Well, in this season, he really has to dig deep, and I was talking about that moral compass, because there are a lot of conflicting forces that are magnets, let's say, that are gonna confuse it, and Scorpion might be one of those. So, yeah, the threat's never been bigger. He's really up against it, and he doesn't have all of his friends as close as he would like them to help him through. He's a much more mature character now, he's growing up. It's funny actually, because in season 1, when we spoke about prepping it, we spoke about how we were telling the story of a boy becoming a man. So I went into season 1 going, we're telling the story. In this season, he's gonna become a boy and man. And then, and actually having done 3 now in this season, I think this is really, truly where you see him grow up.
Oh yeah,
and that's a hard thing to do for anyone, but when you're saving the world, it's even harder.
Indeed. And for you, Brenock, with Tom, like you were mentioning, it is a lot of sort of the lighter relief that's contrasting with sort of some of the more intense moments of the series. But there's also that, that role that he has in Alex's life and finding his own sort of freedom and following his own path, when he's sort of saying to him, like, you don't have to follow what I'm doing all the time. I don't have to be the most important thing. So I think he's finding his place in that respect.
Yeah, I think Tom's aware that this mission is the mission. If this goes well, there might not be one afterwards because the world should stay saved. And if this goes badly, well, that's all right because we're all dead anyway. So he's aware that if it goes well, there isn't going to be a Tom and Alex in the same sense of the guy in the chair or the sort of the helper. So he's keeping his eyes open, but also he can't see himself existing without being Alex's right-hand man. He's been that role for so long, even before Alex was a spy. Like that just was the dynamic at school. It was Alex and Tom follows Alex around and is there to support his friend. So in terms of growing up and moving forward, I don't think Tom's completely comfortable with any of it. He's aware that he has to. Doesn't feel like the most natural thing for him to do. So yeah, there's I think, like most things that the boys deal with, Alex is very forthright with dealing with it, and I think Tom is going, I'll push that to the back of my mind and I'll deal with it in 2 months, and that'll be fine. It'll be solved by then. It'll be fine.
And I know you were shooting on location in Malta, and of course, there's all the sort of high octane action sequences alongside sort of the quieter more fun moments. What was it like being on set? Did you have any highlights? Were there any moments that were really challenging?
I mean, Malta was just so
It was stunning.
beautiful, and we were there in February, which you'd expect wouldn't be the nicest time to be there, but we got lucky
Oh, it was
with
a
the sun.
lovely time to be there.
We got lucky,
It was a
so
lovely time to not be in England. Oh, the
you
best
go.
possible time to not be in England.
also true.
Yeah. I think the highlight for me from our Malta experience was not actually a day of shooting. It was our day off when we went to Gozo.
Yeah,
We took a day trip, a large bunch of us. I had a mate from my band over visiting, and we all went to Gozo for the day. Went and saw the salt collecting. I don't know how to describe it. It's like how they get the salt out of the ocean. The water goes in and then it evaporates, and then they go and get the salt.
Yeah. And there's loads of places in Malta where Game of Thrones was filmed.
Yes.
So we saw some of those, and I think we filmed at a few of them as
did.
well.
We
Actually,
did.
The Widow's Palace and
Yeah.
stuff. So, yeah, I mean, just the views in Malta are so beautiful, especially as the sun's setting, and it makes the series, when you see it on screen, it just makes it feel so much more expansive.
Yeah. And Valletta is a walled city, and it's the actual ancient walls that haven't changed for centuries. It's incredible to be there. You feel the history of the place before you see it, really.
It was really special.
Yeah.
Beats England and Bristol. Even though I love
Bristol. We love Bristol.
Bristol.
Hey, we spent a lot of time in Bristol. Big up left-handed giant. But let's not pretend that Valletta and Briz are the same.
The fact that this show is coming to an end, do you already know what you're going to be doing next? Are you letting the dust settle on this one before you choose your next project?
I'm going to be completely honest with you in a way that we probably shouldn't be in press events like this. Actors, it's not always about choosing the next thing. It's a lot of the time it's auditioning and waiting and it's still trying. No matter if you've booked a job, no matter if you're in the process of booking jobs, if you've been working for 10 years, 5 years, 10 minutes, nothing is given. So at the minute, projects aren't going on for me, but I'm working on my music. I'm an artist under the name McGovern. I'm working on an album and gigging about South East London. I can't speak for Otto, but there seems to be a lot of industry pressure to always have a project on the go, and I don't think that's healthy for anyone, creatives or actors. So time is what we're up to now. We're enjoying time. We've been doing this 4 years and
Five. We've been doing this 5 years, and I'm just so excited for this one, specifically this one. I'm so excited for it to come out because it just feels like the biggest one. It feels like the biggest one. And I think for me, there's also a part of me that I find it really hard to focus on other things or like compartmentalize when I'm doing something. So I'm really looking forward to sort of this being out, the fans hopefully loving it, and then looking into the next thing.
Amazing. Well, lovely note to finish on. Thank you so much for sharing all that with me, and I really can't wait for everyone else to see the third and final season of Alex Rider. Thanks a lot.
Sarah. Cheers.
Nice to chat to you. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.